On a Tuesday, we're getting a trailer like this? On a Tuesday? Well, either way, it seems Universal Pictures and DreamWorks are actually cooking again. I'll be honest, I'm kind of completely surprised by this. As much as the news around the Dog Man movie has actually been known at least since the very beginning of this year, I just outright wasn't aware. So to find out that there is actually a fantastically animated childhood book adaptation going on with a nice stylized style, and it is being done by the production team over at DreamWorks, and yeah, I'm surprisingly impressed. For me personally, I'd kind of started to write off DreamWorks after hearing about some animation business controversy that would only really feel the effects after The Wild Robot. But it seems there's one last other potential squeak for DreamWorks to showcase their animation prowess, as this movie is coming out January 2025, which means not necessarily that DreamWorks are necessarily back. It's more so a matter of the team that are the last part of the goodness before a whole bunch of layoffs start to take place and DreamWorks movies are distributed to other side studios. Before that happens, we still have this as the final result of the final team. Or at least that is what I would be saying if this movie was entirely built in-house, but it turns out it necessarily has not. As back in June when it was announced that DreamWorks was shifting away from in-house production teams and introducing partner studios like Sony ImageWorks, we came to learn back then that Dog Man was set to be animated entirely at partner studios, which are not necessarily Sony ImageWorks. Described as being similar to how the studio utilized Jellyfish Pictures for Spirit Untamed and Micros Animation for Captain Underpants, the first epic movie. So there is also apparently a mixed production model also in the works in the back end. However, the more I look into it, the more the details seem unclear of exactly who animated it, as all modern articles seem to just say made by DreamWorks Animation, but the old article from June says that this was not the plan in future for this movie. Either things have changed or are in such early days that we just don't have the exact details. Either way though, from just outright first impressions and visuals, yeah, this looks pretty great. Whether it's made in-house by DreamWorks and showcases that they've still got a last little showcase to flex with, or this is made by another production studio and it shows not necessarily a lowering of quality, perhaps things are looking up. Really, it's a toss-up, but I like trying to stick to the optimistic front this time around. And let me tell you, this just looks great. And I think you can very clearly see the history and experience that has gone into blending this whole movie together. This movie looks like the Peanuts movie, mixed in with Captain Underpants, mixed in with a little bit of that modern-day Spider-Verse, Mitchells vs. Machines, comic book 2D, 3D integration effect. This is by all means an artifact of its time, that time being 2024. It's a post-Spider-Verse, post-Peanuts world where we know now how to make faithful adaptations to the visual aesthetic of certain childhood books like the Captain Underpants series and its parent spin-off Dog Man, but also in a stylized way that's not boring in the realm of the photorealistic era we had just a few years back. Now we're just getting full-on good, creative animation through and through, all the while telling a story that's absolutely fantastic because, of course it is. It's based off a book that already exists. Now, I'm not particularly familiar myself with the Dog Man series. I haven't even watched Captain Underpants. I only ever read the titles as a kid. I don't know, I hated reading that much in the library. But even so, I don't have to be here to tell you about the actual quality of the story. You can see plain enough from their track record, and also this trailer itself. You can see all of the elements that come together to say, hey, this is going to be a pretty fun romp. For a start, just outright removing the logic of, oh man, we're going to blend a human and a dog together. Who'd have thought that would actually be a good ending in some version of reality? But even still, of course, it then rolls into all your classic gags around it. It's dog-related humor, combined with a person. Readying for baby's first good fetch joke, and it's all in there. And it does seem like it has been handled tremendously well, and it must do, because Universal have been the people behind past works like Captain Underpants, so they very much know what they're doing and have the experience to do so. And allow it to add that little extra flair that is very in tune with the Captain Underpants vibes by even just scratching up your own title cards. It just makes sense in a way that works really, really well. Hey there, thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. We keep up with any new animated movie trailers as we go, so do subscribe if you're interested in keeping up to date and hearing our thoughts. This is just a quick cheeky midway plug, but otherwise I'll let you get back to the rest of the Dog Man trailer. And it's funny, I don't actually remember ever noticing the Dog Man series before, but somehow I recognize it. Couldn't tell you where or why, but it's somewhere in my brain. Some exposure marketing worked somewhere along the line. Now, alongside just seeing the initial visuals and storyline basis in this trailer, we actually also learn a good few things about the casting and business side of this movie. For a start, this is being directed by Peter Hastings. who actually isn't all that connected to directing roles and is more so known as a producer and writer, but they're quite a DreamWorks veteran, handling things like Captain Underpants and Kung Fu Panda as executive producer. But on the more notable side is the cast, with all sorts of big names, of course, crammed in there. You got Pete Davidson, Lil Ray Howery, Isla Fisher, Poppy Liu, Stephen Root, Billy Boyd, and Ricky Gervais chucked in there, alright. But what is actually a really nice attention to detail is the fact that this movie could have gone in some interesting directions in adapting its story, as Dogman doesn't actually speak in the books. Kind of like your classic Mario in the Mario movie circumstances, where it's very possible they could just cram in a celebrity cameo, and you know, there are, sure, plenty of celebrity cameos rather than established voice actors in there, sure, and that's an argument for another day, but hey, at the very least, Dogman himself, pretty mute, or at least he only grunts and hms and yowls, you know, and that works, I think, actually really well for the character. It's not complete uncanny valley that they never make a single sound, although I guess it kind of worked for Gromit, so what am I saying really there? But in making it slightly sounds, but not exactly words, I think is honestly just the perfect fit. And I wouldn't be surprised if it even, given enough popularity, will be a direction that a lot more silent protagonists take, if done very well. And of course, it very much opens up for more artsy, creative, visual storytelling, which I'm always a big fan of. Anyway, if you see Flippy the fish, a telekinetic fish, be aware. That's Ricky Gervais. Now, as for a plotline for this movie, it is very, very simplistic, and honestly, it can kind of get away with it. Obviously, you probably already know the main part. A human police officer called Knight and his dog Greg are injured on a job and have life-changing surgery that combines the two of them. But then the main other line is the fact that Dogman must protect and serve as he doggedly pursues the feline Peter the cat until the arrival of the adorable kitten Lil Petey changes their dynamic. So maybe there's a mild spoiler there, sorry, a kitten's going to appear as well. Apparently being the 9th franchise that DreamWorks has managed to make out of their movies, my goodness, I don't know how on earth we've gotten to this point already. This just looks to be a pretty fantastic, simplistic kids movie that works really well for all that are interested, family and all. The jokes are legitimately some of the best I've seen in a trailer, they're not horrendous. The music choice is Daft Punk, but hey, it's not as far as Minecraft movie Beatles. And it just seems like a fun dog versus cat kind of romp. Classic, simplistic, and endlessly charming if the Captain Underpants movie is anything to be believed. This was certainly a surprise to get at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a random Tuesday from Universal Pictures, but that's where we are at this point. I can't predict this damn industry, but I can predict this movie will probably do pretty well. Naturally, it is a straight-to-streaming movie, getting 4 months on Peacock, 10 months on Netflix, and then another 4 months on Peacock. It's an interesting ending for what looks to be a pretty great movie. In my mind, I'm kind of compartmentalizing it in the same vein as Orion in the Dark, but with a lot more popularity hype behind it. Either way, I'll certainly be watching in whatever form I can come round to January 31st, 2025. On that note though, I'm going to end things off there. My name's been Daz, thank you very much for reaching the end of this video. Do let me know your thoughts on Dogman and any specific details you might know that I don't because I haven't read the books. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below, and I shall see you in a little bit.